Right, and we're back with part 2 of my Clockwork Empires playthrough talkover, as I like to call it. Uh, so my previous save was corrupted, and that session was lost, unfortunately. I've started a new colony, and this is approximately the same level of progress. I've got the same buildings, and the economy seems to be doing well. One thing I neglected to mention last time is that buildings can be any arbitrary shape. I built all my previous buildings, we'll deal with that in a second. I built all the buildings in my previous session as pure boring old brick shape rectangles. But that's not necessary, strictly speaking. You have the opportunity to define a building's floor plan with a series of squares, and that will let you make buildings of any arbitrary size. And I am turning the camera, rotating the camera 90 degrees by clicking the middle mouse button. Those of you who didn't look at the keybinds before starting your game might not have known that. The neat thing about so there's a procedural building generator that generates your walls and roofs based on the shape of the floor plan. So if this weird L-shaped building, or T-shaped with one very short arm, and yeah, the computer itself has extruded, or it has inferred all these walls and even this rather complicated looking roof. Same goes for this L-shaped what is this? Kiln up here, or ceramics workshop I should say, and this other L-shaped kitchen. I like to vary it up a little bit. A village full of square or rectangular buildings looks like it's made of Lego. Anyway, so got a bunch of food. Should probably queue up some food. Oh, I have a fishman invasion on the way. I'll pause it for a second. So I have 4 raiders coming in. I think these 2 buttons do exactly the same thing. In fact, I'm not sure they do anything. I think the first button is intended to force your colonists to attack, and the second one forces them to hide inside. It doesn't seem to make a difference at the moment which you press. So I've got 4 fishermen coming in. I have, at present, 4 soldiers. So I think I can trust them to get the job done. If I feel like an invading force is too much for my current military force, I can actually conscript some of my non-professional soldiers, so like these work crews. If you look in the upper right of this work crew menu, there's actually a conscript unit button. We'll turn them into militia. So they'll get uniforms similar to the red coats here, but they'll be brown. Now they won't be as effective as soldiers, but they will still pick up guns and shoot the fishmen and, defend your colony. So they're very good if you need, an emergency influx of fighters, or you have a surprisingly large wave, or maybe all your soldiers have died, and you need someone to shoot at invaders. Uh-oh. Elias is being attacked by a fishman. Alright, this is good oh, man. Oh, this is a good opportunity to explain combat. So fishmen are unable to enter buildings. Let's butcher him for his meat. Whereas colonists can and do run into buildings to escape from fishmen, which is great. Now, at present, fishmen are able to attack things through walls provided they are adjacent to a wall. So we saw the fishman standing right here attacking like this dude on the bed. And sometimes being attacked by the scaly hand of a fishman will not wake a colonist up. That is unfortunate. Another thing to note is that guns work at... Oh, no. Guns work through walls. I'll get back to that. It looks... from the path of uncovered... Or from the path of revealed fog of war, it looks like one of my colonists was chased way the heck out here by a fishman who eventually caught her and killed her and rendered her into Raw meat. That is unfortunate. And but look at this. Now we have a bunch of colonists who have no work crew, which says to me, the person who was killed was one of my precious few overseers. That makes me sad. The good news is that, well, one of my buildings was complete. I guess they must just have finished the module in one of these buildings, and probably in this bunkhouse. So, time to reassign these overseerless workers. Without an overseer, they will do nothing. Oh, I shouldn't say do nothing. They won't do any workshop jobs. They will still haul loose goods and farm. Let's put them on under... No, these guys have plenty of workers. And next time I have an opportunity, I'm going to take an overseer. So I can have more jobs going simultaneously, because even if I split all these guys up into another work crew... Oh, there's another fishman attack. Even if I split up my workers here into another work crew, all the remaining workers will have a decent number of workers. But for now, actually, I'm going to shore up my military strength. Plenty of workers. So, non-soldiers that you stick in a squad commanded by the NCO automatically become militia. Right, so I have a fighting strength of 6 men, or 6 men and women, brave soldiers of the Empire. And I'm pretty good for workers. Let's queue up some more cooking jobs. Let's see what I got. I have an abundance of cabbage. Queue up some of those. Queue up some of these lingonberries. And once this wheat crop... wait a second. I have a ton of wheat. Why don't I bake some bread? And another fishman invasion. What's going on here? Oh, this one's only 3 fishman raiders. My 6 fighters, my 6 soldiers should be able to handle them. I won't have to micromanage this. Soldier and combat AI is getting better with each revision. Sometimes you get unfortunate situations where someone runs away from a fishman right up to the edge of the world. And sometimes we get situations like this, where my 2 soldiers are defending our colonies. Oh, somebody's run out of bullets. This guy, this lady, has no bullets. So the top of her priority list is to, well, is to grab more bullets. And now the invaders are all dead. Let's chop them up for meat. Right, maybe I can show you an arbitrarily shaped building, since it looks like we're in a good spot to build another one. I've built the ceramics workshop here, which turns clay into bricks. Now it's time for me to build a refinery, so I can take advantage of these nodes. See this green, well, okay, that's a malachite node. It will produce copper ore, which I'll need to make things like copper pipes and copper plates. Very important for later industry, for building things like your armory. So I can drag out a rectangular box here. I can drag out another rectangular box here. Let's just say I want an amusing shape. I'm going to drag out another little pit here. No good reason, just because. So I have my... I need to build a kiln. So I've got a fair amount of stone blocks, so I can make the stone versions of these rather than, again, consuming valuable pre-processed resources. The crucible will let you smelt raw ore into ingots. Very important. Nobody can use raw ore, right? It's all got to be ingots. The charcoal kiln will let you turn logs into charcoal. Charcoal is very important for later processes. It's involved in fertilizer. I believe it's involved in ammunition. Let's put a rolling cargo door just for the hell of it. And of course, some real doors for my colonists. And because I've got the space, I'm going to build a middle-class bed in here. Why not? Checking my resources. I'm a little bit short on planks. So I'm going to queue up a few more planks in the carpentry workshop here. That's in the bottom right. That was just a warning that I hadn't assigned a work crew to work in the refinery. Not surprising. The refinery's not even built. My stockpiles are growing quite, well, they're very full. So I'm going to drag out another stockpile here. Like before, I am going to restrict it to things that are not food. Again, the reason we build stockpiles in the first place is so that we have a central depot for things, rather than having people drop resources where they're harvested. Yes, I know the refinery has no workers. Things are going well. The wheat is coming in. The cabbage harvest is looking fine. Let's see. Got a bunch of cabbage that I can make into cabbage stew. Haven't started on that bread, but when they do, we'll have plenty of wheat for more bread. Let's harvest these berries. So you can see my strange and arbitrarily shaped refinery has been built with sensible walls and a sensible roof. It's quite sinister looking, actually. It's the building with black walls and a black tiled roof. So I have more than enough stone to complete the construction of these two stone modules. Oh, we have a supply drop. I think we're okay for food. I think we're okay for guns. And that being the case, I'm going to take building materials. Where did those materials land? Well, they're around here somewhere. And they typically take the form of things like buckets of gears and copper sheets, that sort of thing. Right. A new wave of immigrants. Now I think I'm in a good position to take an additional overseer. If I take one worker off of each of these crews, I can have an additional work crew of 3 workers. Each remaining crew will have enough people to complete jobs competently. I'll take an overseer. Our new arrival is Mrs. Rivetsley. Mrs. Rivetsley will command the temperate presses. So, I've got to grab a lady out of this work crew by right-clicking her. Sends her to the unassigned workers row at the top there. Same thing here. And actually, let's just take those two. Now I grab these guys with the left-click drag, and I drag them to Mrs. Rivetsley's temperate presses. And now we have another crew. Now then, often a pressing question is, how do I keep fishmen out of the precious heart of my colony, which is typically where I put the stockpiles and the farmyards? Well, we know fishmen can't use doors, and nobody can pass through solid objects like walls. So buildings themselves are great. Great for fencing out the wild outdoors. However, people, animals, and fishmen, and various other attackers can always squeeze through these little gaps in your buildings. One solution, given that you can make a building of arbitrary... here, I'll show you. Given that you can make a building of arbitrary size and dimensions, you can do this. A long freaking bunkhouse. And a long freaking bunk. And were I to build it this way, it would become an impassable wall. Ideally, I'd put in some doors and maybe even squeeze in some actual beds so it's usable as a building. Personally, I think that looks a little bit ugly. Uh, and I don't think I'm in. I don't think I quite need that level of defense yet. What I will do, however, is fill in these gaps, these little alleys between my buildings, with gabions. So one thing your military can do, other than shooting, they can lay down these landmines, of which you start with 3 in your initial settlement. Landmines do what you would expect. They blow up when a fishman steps on them, and not when your colonists step on them. That's an important distinction. Or you can have them build gabions. A gabion is like a palisade. It's a big stack of logs. There are short ones, and there are tall ones. The short ones, in theory, the short ones can be shot over if you have a gun, and the tall ones cannot. In practice, because walls still need some love, and walls don't break line of sight, it's also possible to shoot over the high ones. So we're just going to build some short ones for now. They're the same cost anyway. I'll plug up this little gap here between these 2 buildings, and this little gap here. And we're going to see some soldiers walk over there with planks, and they'll build them in a second. So Alfred, I hear you say, a fishman, rather than running down this alley in the middle, a fishman could easily run around the top of the building or around the bottom of the building. Yes. Yes, they can. However, what you're doing is denying them access. Because colonists can enter buildings through doors, and fishmen cannot, this becomes a large L-shaped wall for a fishman, but not for your colonists. So it's permeable only to colonists and bullets, or I should say firearms. In this manner, it is possible to completely enclose your colony with a ring of walls and palisades. And here we can see a soldier has constructed a gabion, and this militiaman and this soldier have constructed this other gabion. Actually, this one's still under construction. Let's see how we're doing on the commodities front. We've got a ton of wood. We're completely out of planks, and somebody is talking about culty things. I've paused the game. Let's queue up some... nobody's making planks. I'm a little concerned. Oh. That's because nobody is assigned to the carpentry workshop, because fishmen beat the previous overseer of this workshop to death. Right. Someone in here was gossiping about things that should not be, things beyond the ken of mortal men. It looks like Leland Brazenwilcowl. He was just talking about foul and pestilent architecture. When they start enjoying conversations about foul and pestilent architecture, then it's time for frontier justice. I'm going to harvest a little bit of clay here. These are clay nodes. Right, mine surface node with a shovel, and it will produce blocks of clay, or clumps of clay, which are used in the ceramics kiln here to produce bricks. If I had sand somewhere, say I'm on a beach, you can collect buckets of sand and turn them into glass panes. So our colony is humming along nicely. Our soldiers appear not to have anything to do. How are we doing for jobs? The fields are actively being farmed. Cooks are working on bread. Someone's sawing planks. And someone was talking about Leland. Oh God. Leland and Elias have both shown worrying tendencies. Leland Brazenwilcowl is enjoying conversations about forbidden knowledge. He's very happy. Oh, he made friends with himself. Twice. Elias Floodgate is showing an increased appreciation for foul and pestilent architecture. I'm a little bit concerned. I think I'm going to have to mark both of these guys for frontier justice. Sorry, dudes. Oh, we've got the cult activity warning. So cult activity warning is when an increasing number of your colonists become susceptible to culty talk, the overall cult, there's a value called cult power. Poor old Leland, oh, Elias. Leland will follow soon. Basically, when cult power increases too much, bad things start to happen. Cultists will get together and gossip, and they will sneak off into the woods and build obscure shrines, and mysterious circles of worship. You know, that's allowed to go on too long. You're going to have a murder spree in town before long. And other things. Other bad things can happen. That's just the tip of the iceberg. So it's best to nip these in the bud and subject these wrong-thinking colonists to frontier justice before they can infect the rest of your colony with their strange, strange ideas. Now I have a corpse somewhere because someone was just executed. So I'm going to build a graveyard so his corpse doesn't upset the rest of my colonists. Let's put it out here, a good distance from the town. Ooh, that's looking a little rough. I'm sure they'll work it out. Well, there are burial duties, although Orion Ironwoodton has taken it upon himself to bury the corpse, and everybody else is working out their assigned tasks. Right, so our refinery is done. Let's assign a crew there. Mrs. Flood's Industrious Sprockets. So if we harvest some ore, see out of these green rocks, malachite nodes, we would get copper ore. And with copper ore, we can smelt copper bars. So let's mine some of these, and I'm actually looking for hematite nodes, the red ones, because those provide me with iron ore, like these. And actually there's some berries here. Let's forage those as well. So all in all, fairly uneventful. I think our colony is doing well. Let's plug up this gap with more gabions, I think. Someone is enjoying sitting in a chair. Rowena Patterson. I've not given her anything to do. Oh look. Leland Brazenwilcowl is still a fugitive from justice. I could send my military there. You can actually direct them with waypoints, but he does no harm. He won't talk to anyone and infect him with his cultish ideas while he's out there. So I'm fine with him just running around out there and leaving my militia and soldiers free to farm and haul. Well, I don't think our kitchen, I guess our kitchen's all done. Let's order up some more food. I've got a bunch of cabbage stew. Let's cook some more cabbage stew. I hope they like, that'll be a big part of your colony's initial diet. I hope you do like cabbage. And we've got a bunch of berries. We can cook some of those. Actually, we have a ton of wheat. Let's make some more bread as well. We have 21 bags of wheat flour. Now, wheat flour, assuming some tragedy has befallen your kitchen crew and nobody's cooking that wheat flour into bread, wheat flour is also edible, but it's not as nutritious. It's possibly the least nutritious food that is still edible. A colonist, by preference, will pick more nutritious foods, like this crate of lingonberries or this pot of cabbage stew. If they have no choice, then they'll eat the wheat flour, which is disastrous. But first let's deal with these colonists. Let's take 3 of anyone. I don't need any more overseers or work parties at the moment. Right. 2 more... Oh! So my 3 colonists were 1 overseer and 2 workers. So I'll just assume these guys all came together. So as I was saying, sometimes one or more of your 3 random immigrants is an overseer. This can be a problem very early in the game, when you desperately need more workers, but instead get 3 overseers. So your workforce at that point will be spread a little bit thin amongst too many work parties. But that's not the case here. So as I was saying, if you're ever in a situation where your colonists, because they're so hungry or they're starving or whatever, they're eating the raw food instead of the cooked food it will eventually become, you have serious food problems, and you definitely need to look into foraging or farming a little more heavily. This is because so your colonists are eating lower value food, which is less nutritious, which means the food is not available to be cooked into higher quality food, which means they get hungrier faster, which means they consume food faster, and thus you're going to have to spend more time farming and foraging, which leaves you less time for building buildings, doing other mining nodes, and what is the... Leland! It looks like Leland has snuck back into town, right under the nose of one of our soldiers. And he's happy. He had a good night's sleep in a bed. What is going on? Well, let's see how long he lives. So this is probably a good place to stop. We will continue the saga of Oh, here we go. Actually, let's watch this play out. Vertaline Ironwill? Oh, her current job is mob justice. She has taken upon herself to beat Leland to death. I say that, and she's apparently changed her mind. Oh, here we have a militiaman who is also ignoring Leland. Well, it looks like somebody buried that other corpse we made earlier. As I was saying, this is probably a good place to stop here now. So we'll continue the saga of Leland Brazenwilcowl next episode. Thanks for watching. My name's Alfred. Have a good one.